All right, Josh, I'm recording, so you got to stop talking bad about Rob Craig right now. Sorry, buddy. This week, my PowerPoint frozen? Come on, PowerPoint, you can do it. Yeah, it does appear to be frozen. No, it's moving. Okay. This week we have to. Hello, Simran. How you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm
Good.
good.
Good. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And we just started. Okay. Today we're going to talk about the customer. And most of my experience over the years is in desktop support. So that's kind of my perspective, and you can keep that in mind. If you guys are cybersecurity, and your plan is to work cybersecurity, then you're going to deal with customers less than I do, but it's still nice to have this sort of skill in your back pocket because every role of IT has to face the customer on some level. Sometimes your customer is your fellow IT people. So if you're a diagnostician, you're coming in to solve complicated problems, and your customer is probably your fellow IT guys, like we just discussed. So they can't figure out a problem, so they call you in to fix it. I get this sometimes from Mac stuff because I know Mac's better than most people. So sometimes another technician calls me in and says, Toby, look at this Mac, it's misbehaving. And I figure it out and give them the answer. And I'm not really even talking directly to the customer, I'm talking to my colleague and trying to help them out. Now, repair tech, if you work at a small business, you're repairing people's computers. So your work is going to go directly back and be used by somebody. If you do a crappy job, you're going to hear about it. As a designer, if you design a brilliant set of computers for your best friend's business and they work great, they're going to love you forever. And if there's flaws, you're going to hear about it. Same with being a builder and installer. Make any mistakes there, you'll hear about it. And then administrator, complaints are kind of your bread and butter. It's your day to day to hear complaints because human beings don't compliment as much as they complain. When things are going well, they tend to forget that IT is a thing. They just do their jobs and don't think about it. It's when things go wrong that they think, oh, I need to talk to IT. And of course, we will remember our diagnostic method, keep it in our heads at all times, reproduce the problem, identify possible causes, eliminate possibilities, swap, replace parts, look it up if you can't figure it out, phone a friend, call in favors, beg, borrow, steal, but solve the problem however you can. So, this is going to involve a lot of self examination. Your ability to fix, hi, Butters, get out of the way, buddy. You got to go over here. Okay, thank you. Solving technical problems is about understanding the technology and what the solutions to any problems you might have could be. And solving people problems involves more fixing things in yourself and being prepared for, them. And you don't always know what sort of state of mind the customer is going to be in. Butters, go on, get out of the way. So, what you can do is start from a position of being a great technician. And a great technician is dependable. You say you're going to be there at 2 p.m., be there at 2 p.m. You say you're going to fix it, fix it. And stay positive. When someone calls you with a complaint or a problem, I can't print, I can't log into my email, my computer's on fire, it won't turn on, my video games run like crap, whatever their complaint is, they are already locked in sort of a negative circle of thinking. They're already unhappy. So you need to come in like John Wayne or whatever and say, I got this. I'm going to solve this. I have the solution. I'm going to fix it. And then you also have to listen. What's happening? What are they trying to do? They're going to, almost without fail, customers will give you a ton of information you don't need. There's the problem, and there's everything pertinent to it, like I can't print. Well, is there paper? Is there toner? Is the print driver installed? Is it connected properly? Is something inside the printer maybe broken? These are the pertinent facts. And you're going to hear about how they have a deadline and they need to print something at 2 p.m. or personal stuff. They're just broke up with their girlfriend, or they just moved into a new place, or they just got a new dog, or whatever. You're going to hear a ton of information you don't need, and it's going to be distracting. You're going to have to actually think and go through your process and solve your problem while someone is just bombarding you with distraction. It's a real challenge. So you're going to arm yourself with some defensive kind of tools. One is polite language. You stay polite, you stay professional. This is like your fighting stance. It's like your shield that you hold up, like, oh, no matter what, I'm going to stay polite, and that's going to make sure I don't do anything or say anything I regret by the end of this. So you stay polite and you match or exceed their level of formality. We'll get to that in a second. You're going to show sensitivity. If you're a support person, you're there to fix people's problems. So you should care about their problems. You should begin with the idea that this problem is very important, whoever it is. And it's keeping them from working, or it's keeping them from talking to someone they want to talk to. During COVID, it might be keeping them from talking to loved ones, or participating in a Zoom class, or being in a work meeting that they really need to be in. And it's also important to take ownership, especially since you're going to get the blame if you can't solve it anyway. You're going to get, hopefully, the credit if you do solve it. And so you might as well start by taking ownership by saying, okay, I'm going to fix this. I'm not going to quit until it's fixed. And I'm not going to give up on you until you are functional again. This does a lot to comfort the customer, being sensitive, being polite, and saying, I got this. I'm going to fix it. Okay. A sort of a trick is to dress formal. Whatever your workplace is, networking, security, support, systems, enterprise systems, figure out what the normal dress code is. You might be at a workplace that has a dress code, and it's collared shirts and pants. Go up one level, not 2 levels, go up one level. Dress slightly more formal than you have to. Where I work, I'm expected to wear pants, not shorts, but that's really it. I could wear an SIU t-shirt, I could wear a Coors t-shirt and look like a little bit of a schlub, but nobody would really complain. I wear a sport jacket and a collared shirt, and it makes me look more like a professor or an administrator. It makes me look a little more professional, and people, this is true, people just treat you better when you're more formal. They assign credibility to you. They imagine that you know more than you do. And a big part of being a technician these days, especially you security guys, is knowing the law. What can people do with equipment that belongs to their workplace? What can they not do? What things can they know? What level of access and control? What level of administrative rights can they have? What are state laws regarding information? If you're going to work for a hospital or SIH, and there's a lot of jobs around here for SIH IT, you have to know something about HIPAA laws, which protect a patient's records. You go to the doctor, they're not allowed to tell anybody what's wrong with you at all, ever. They just can't. So you, the IT guy, have to help the doctors and nurses and hospital staff protect that information. Okay. The book likes to talk about start to finish plans, which means we know what the response is going to be from the moment the customer has a complaint to the moment that the problem is solved and they go back to work. Every stage of that is planned out by most big organizations. If you work at a small place, or you're the IT guy for a law office, doctor's office, whatever, small business, your process can be whatever you want. You are the start to finish plan. But if you join a big organization and you work as a specialist like security, there's going to be a bigger plan that you are a small part of, and you need to do your part and be aware of the parts around you so you don't screw up anybody else's workday. And most bigger places are going to do call tracking, or what we call a ticketing system. Does anybody know what a ticketing system does? No.
Like work orders?
Yeah, exactly like work orders. Ticketing is just IT jargon for work order, right? Where do you get the term work order from?
I've just always, kind of known the term for like maintenance
Mm-hmm.
workers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has a problem, they fill out a work order that pretty much tells the problem and where.
Right. That's exactly true for John A and for SIU. I know that when, you know, the lights are out or there's water or there's some other problem with the building, we put in a work order to our carpenters, our electricians, and they come and fix it. And we got to tell them where it is and what it is and describe it. And they don't really need much more info other than where it is and what it looks and sounds like. They don't really trust us to troubleshoot it beyond that anyway, nor should they. But in IT, we usually call that work order a ticket. It's just the term we've been using. And we have a ticketing system. So someone calls in requesting help or emails in or goes to a website where they fill out a little form that says, help, submit. This creates what's called a ticket. It's really just a file in the ticketing system. And it says who has the problem. It hopefully documents whatever they say about it. And the ticket stays open, like an open file. It shows up in your list of tickets until you solve it. So this helps you keep track of stuff. This also very crucially helps you hand it off from technician A to technician B. Like if there's a ticket that comes in and it's at 3:30 p.m. and Josh starts it, but he's going home at 4 and he doesn't have it solved by then, but Simran comes on duty at 4:30, he can transfer the ticket to her. And even if they don't see each other, which in COVID-19, you don't see a lot of each other in person, you can't really just have a face-to-face and say, hey, here's where I'm at with this problem. Please take it. You document it in the ticket. So Simran, the second technician on the scene, knows everything Josh has tried and everything he's done and where he's at, and she can just pick up the process and continue it, which is crucial when you're part of a big organization because you got to be able to hand work back and forth to each other. Also, sometimes one technician will just get 20 tickets and you'll have another technician sitting one building away with 0 tickets. And it makes much more sense if you can spread the work around, help each other. So the older a ticket goes, typically the more it gets escalated, the more we worry about it because we're, wondering why it hasn't been solved for weeks and weeks and weeks. This is sort of what a ticketing system looks like, other than I've got the deep here for no reason. You can see by group, you can see right here, networking has 5 tickets they're working on. There's 28 general tickets that I guess don't fit in any category. Systems has 92, but there's probably some duplicates. There might be like 50 tickets of people who've lost their password, and that shows up as a systems ticket maybe. And then unassigned, no one's even looked at these yet and doesn't know what to do with them. That's kind of a lot for tickets to be just in limbo. And then hopefully each ticket contains some information about whether it's a hardware thing, a repair request, or maybe it's a network issue. And this allows the bosses, the managers, to look at stuff and say, oh, we're having a lot of hardware issues this month. Maybe our equipment's getting too old. Maybe people are not using the equipment right. Maybe we need to think about how to reduce this number because this is getting out of hand. And then by individual people. You look over here and you see this Aaron Richardson guy has done 27 tickets. And this Taryn Arvin guy or gal has only done 1. And then at first glance, you might think, oh, well, Aaron's working harder and doing more work than Taryn, but that's not necessarily the case. It might be that Aaron is on phone support and he helped 27 people who forgot their password. So he spent 2 to 3 minutes with each person, and he did that 27 tickets before lunchtime. I've heard of call center guys who handled nothing but lost passwords doing 70 or 80 in a day. Whereas this Kevin Cromack and Taryn, Sarah Bain, these people with 1 or 2 tickets, Cesar, they may be on a really difficult issue, a really difficult ticket that takes hours to solve, some massive problem. So it doesn't give you all the info, this dashboard, but it helps. So this is the SIU one. This is an out of date. This is from like a year ago. But you can see it's not as pretty as the other one. We're working on ours. We're actually going to revamp and improve it a lot very soon here. We're devoting some good people to it and going to fix it. In fact, the guy who is now in charge of renovating and improving the SIU ticketing system is a former John A. student of Rob Craig's. He came through the ELT program. Get out of here, Butters. Sorry, I had to yell at my cat. And he's going to be redesigning this for us. We're pretty excited about that because we use it all day long. But you can see here is a list of tickets. They all have a number. There's a little info about them. This could be better. Stuff that's in progress. Someone's working on this one. Okay. Also, the other thing you can see is, unfortunately, there are some customers that need more help than others. Some because it's the nature of their job. Like, the nature of their job is such that they tend to run into lots of problems. So they're going to be a frequent source of tickets as one person. In another case, it could be that everyone in the department puts in their ticket through this person. So they're like the department staff, department manager, whatever. And the professors come by and go, Bob, put in a ticket for me. My internet's out. And so Bob puts in the ticket, but it's actually for somebody else. And hopefully Bob gets really good at this and puts in all the info we need. Usually when we have a person like that in a department, we sort of pull them aside and go, look, this is the info we need. This is the info we don't. If you're going to put in all the tickets for everybody else, we want you to be really good and efficient at it so you get the best result. Then there's also people who are just problems that they don't possess enough technical knowledge to be doing what they're doing, so they run into trouble a lot. And that's also going to show up in your ticketing system. You're going to find that, Dave has 25 tickets this week. What's going on? Well, he's just kind of doing the wrong thing a lot. It's a lot of user error. So what we need to do then, the solution is not to yell at him, belittle him, make fun of him on social media. The solution is, Dave needs some training. Someone needs to spend some time filling in the blanks for him so he's not just, throwing darts in the dark here. Okay. When you initially contact the customer, this is pretty important. You want to make a good first impression. Yes, you're there because of your technical skills, but a big part of deciding whether you're successful or not is your personal skills. And yes, people will judge your appearance. If you look like a mess, if you look tired and unhappy, that will affect your chance of success. And your policy knowledge, of course, will come into play. You can do this. You can't do that. We have to do this. You must do this. You are going to be the authority in the room, so you need to know what rules to follow. And the first thing you're going to want to know is you're going to want to understand the problem, but you're also going to need to know the urgency. One of my guys that used to work for me and went to work for SIH, and he was working for doctors' offices and hospitals. I said, do you have any high pressure stuff come through? And he said, yeah, I had one the other day where they had a kid's x-rays on this one computer. They had messed up and they didn't have the files anywhere else. The surgeon needed to look at these x-rays before he operates on the kid in 2 hours. And the computer's down. He said, so I had to get the files in a certain time frame, or this kid's not getting his operation that day. They're going to have to postpone it for weeks. And you just don't ever want to affect people's health with your own skill set, unless you are a doctor or a nurse. But if you're going to work healthcare IT, it's going to happen sometimes. You're going to be dependent on. So urgency is important. This also helps if you have 5 jobs and one of them is super important and the others can wait. You have to figure out which one you're going to work on first. Okay. The other thing we have to think about, especially if you work for John A or you work for SIU, is when someone in G building says, my internet's out, the first question in your mind is it just them or is it the entire building? Because if you suddenly walk down the hall and go straight to that person's office and you get back and find 25 other calls saying that the internet's out, then the whole building's out. Thank you, Windows. And that's the difference between a customer job and an area job. So you're going to interview the customer, like a job interview or like a TV interview. You're going to sit down and talk to them and hear what they have to say, try to figure out what's going on. And if you're the sort of person that benefits from taking notes, you got to take notes. If you're not getting the information you need, you just got to keep asking questions until you understand the problem. Then, with their permission to use their equipment, you're going to try to reproduce it, which means I need to see it happen. You have to see it with your own eyes. You can't just take the customer's word for it because they're not a professional technician. Of course, this slide predates COVID-19, actually. You should wash your hands because as a desktop support technician, If you're on site support, like I usually was before COVID, you go office to office. I walked around with hand sanitizer in my office, and I had a little portable bottle. It's in every bathroom, it's in every hallway at work. It was before COVID. And so you have to think about hygiene when you're going to go from office to office to office. And that's even if we beat COVID and have a vaccine that works and blah, blah, blah. You're still got to think about this because the cold, the common cold, the flu, stuff like that. You don't want to be a spreader for them. And if you're a really busy technician and you've closed 10 cases that day, that might mean 10 different keyboards you've touched. Ew. And we don't really shake hands anymore. Maybe we will after COVID, but I don't know. I don't know if we ever will again. So, some subtler things that might not occur to you is that you want to nail down customer expectations. When you're interviewing them and they're saying, "I can't log into this system, so I can't work." You want to look them in the eye and say, "Okay, I'm going to work on this until it's fixed, and I'm not going to quit until it is. And I'm going to make sure that you can work because it's important to me that you can. And that's my job, and I'm going to do it." And that sort of confidence and direct assurance is usually very welcome. You never have a customer go, "Cool, wasting my time filling me with confidence and telling me I'm important." They usually soak it up and go, "Thank you. I appreciate you taking my problem seriously." It often lowers their stress, which means they're less in your way and more helpful to you. And then, assuming they understand generally what's going on, you want to keep them informed. "I'm doing this. I'm going to update your drivers. I'm going to try a different mouse. I'm going to disconnect this whole thing and put it all back together. I'm going to take your computer for half a day and bring it back tomorrow." Whatever you're doing, keep them in the loop. There's usually no reason for secrecy. And if they can make a decision, let them make it. Do you want to? Are you attached to this mouse, or could I replace it and get you a different one because this one's acting funny? Do you want to update to the next operating system? If you do, then this will be better. This will be better. You'll be more compatible with this, and you're going to eventually have to do it anyway. And then let them say, "Yeah, okay, that makes sense." Convince them of the right path, and then let them choose to take it. Sometimes you just have to come in and say, "Look, dude, you're getting Windows 10. You must leave Windows 8." And I've had people resist it. Definitely had people resist leaving Windows 7 for 8. That was tough. But your decisions should be informed by everything you know from your training, everything you know from talking to your colleagues and Googling your butt off, and everything you know from interviewing the customer. And then there's a shared responsibility here. You're counting on them to know their part of the job and to not do anything wacky or reckless or dangerous. They can't go surfing wacky stuff on the internet on their lunch hour and then manage, millions of dollars of the company's money on the same computer, increase the risk of getting hacked. And then your responsibility is you need to make sure they know everything they need to know to operate safely. And then you got to fix everything that's broken. So, definitely avoid distractions. As I said, customers are going to be distracting enough. You definitely can't be on the phone with your friends, scrolling through Twitter, Facebook. You can't be cruising, around the customer's office on a longboard drinking cranberry juice and making TikToks while you're on the job. You got to focus on what you're doing. And definitely don't get in text wars. They always go off the rails right when you're in the middle of something, and then your brain's trying to think about two things at once, and you fail at both. So just avoid social media. Keep your work calls short. Keep your personal calls non-existent. If you have to take a break, you're trying to solve a problem for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, do give yourself a break. You deserve that. And keep them short. When you're at somebody's desk, don't move their stuff if you don't have to. Hang on a second. PowerPoint is not animating that slide, and it bothers me because it's an awesome slide that should definitely animate. One sec. So, when you're at somebody's desk, you don't move their stuff around, you don't relocate their stuff. You generally try to get in and get out in such a way that it's not obvious that you were ever really there. Let's see, where was that slide? Okay, PowerPoint. Just be that way. So, keep your tools out of the way, don't leave stuff everywhere, and protect confidential materials. When you're at a user's desk, even if you have the right to use the equipment without their permission, it's polite to ask for it anyway. Oh, do you mind if I try this? Can I try that? Can I sit down for a second? And if their desk isn't very comfortable for you, don't adjust the chair. Don't scoot things around. Adjust to their world as much as you can. You're just a temporary visitor, so just don't rock the boat on that front. Just leads to needless conflict. Accommodate their needs however you can while doing your job. And if you're going to make a big software or hardware change, generally talk to them. Keep them informed. An educated and informed user is a much safer and more productive one in general. Don't keep them in the dark. And then, if a customer has made you absolutely miserable or if a problem's been frustrating, don't talk about it on social media. If you do, redact so much of the information that it's absolutely unrecognizable. It's really making me sad that this GIF doesn't animate today, but PowerPoint's being weird. Okay. Phone support is my personal nightmare. I'm not a big fan of it. It requires just so much more reliance on the customer because you're seeing through their eyes, you're working through their hands, you're remote. And in COVID-19, we've had to do this a lot more. So we've just kind of given up and gone to straight, can I take over your computer? Can I remote desktop you? Can I team viewer you? Can I Zoho you? Which is rough because the number one thing scammers have been doing over the last year or two is trying to get remote permission to take over people's computers. So if you've educated your customers over the last couple of years, as I have, to never let anyone take control of your computer, now you say, accept me. Do as I say, not as I do, and let me take over your computer because I'm not able to describe to you what you need to do to fix it. So let me remote. So more patience is required for pure phone support. And typically, when phone support can't fix it, it's time for an on site visit, which again, these days means remote or mask up, glove up, wash your hands, and go visit the customer like you normally do, and then wash your hands again after. You definitely don't want to eat or drink on the phone. That should be obvious. If they have to be put on hold, make it very short. Check on them pretty frequently. Make sure you don't ever create a situation where a customer's forgotten on hold or is sitting on hold for like 5, 10, 15 minutes. That's too long. Speak clearly and slowly, something I need to learn to do for these lectures. And if you got to do small talk, keep it upbeat and positive. My favorite example of this is I once sent a technician to a secretary who was known for being very demanding and complaining and generally being very picky about computer problems. And I sent this kid to her. He was gone for 2 hours. He came back and I said, "Where you been? What did you fix it? Why did this take so long?" And he said, "I fixed the printer in the first 5 minutes and then we talked about her cats for 2 hours." And that might sound like a waste of time to you, but she wrote me an email saying that that was the best technician we've ever had and promote him. And she was very happy with her level of service. And she told everyone in the department that too. And then after that, anytime they had a problem, she had a problem, she was noticeably nicer. Like we won her over for years based on that interaction. That was totally worth it. Okay, remote desktop support. First step we usually do is we ask for consent. We say, I would like to take over your computer and I'll make these changes or try to fix these things or see what you're seeing to help solve the problem and explain it as you go. It's weird. The more people get used to computers, the more they operate like us, the IT nerds. Their computers it's an extension of them. It's their desktop, it's their mouse and keyboard, it's their even if it's a work machine, it's still theirs. It's sort of, their desktop background might be pictures of their kids or Iron Man or whatever they love. And so you're in their home, sort of. So explain what you're doing. I'm going to update this. I'm going to uninstall this. I'm going to reinstall this. Obviously, you got to use a secure connection for stuff like this. And you want to address any security concerns they have. Like, I'm going to request permission to take over your computer. You're going to see that request. We're on the phone, so you know it's me. And you're going to be able to kick me off at any time. and I won't be able to reconnect and watch what you do or control without your consent. So that's just being respectful. If you do have to work through them, you got to be really specific with your instructions. Your typical customer does not understand things the way you do, otherwise, they wouldn't need you. Be careful what you ask them to do. Definitely don't tell them to reset their Windows without backing up first. Don't tell them to delete anything or force restart anything until you're sure they've got a backup. Ideally, in this day and age, it's 2020. I know it's the worst year on record for by just about any metric, but it should be a really good year for human beings in backing up in the cloud. Everybody should be on Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, you name it. Your files should be in the cloud somewhere. They should not be just on your hard drive or just on your flash drive, although it does still happen. I'm kind of amazed. I mean, I've had two this month, and I'm just sort of amazed. And the first thing I want to say, and I don't, but the first thing I want to say is it's 2020, man. You need to have your stuff in the cloud. Come on. So you're counting on the customer to describe what's on the screen. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. If they do well, compliment them. This goes for anything you do with human beings. If they do something right, point it out, thank them for it, encourage it, support it. Maybe they'll do more things right and you'll get through this together. And the more they trust you, the more they feel like you're not judging them, like you're on their team, and no matter what happens, you're going to help them. The more trust you have, the more trust you will get. And then they will tell you when there's problems. They will not hide things from you. They will lie to you less or not at all if they can. Sometimes they lie on accident, but they won't lie on purpose. That makes your life a lot easier. And some customers have more confidence than competence, and that is a problem. So you want to compliment what they do know. You want to be positive about it, but slow the conversation down. Typically, what happens when you have a customer who thinks they know as much about IT as you do, or close to as much, or more, is they're not solving the problem because they're skipping a step. They forgot to check something. They didn't really look at the situation. They assume that the mouse is fine and that the cursor is just going bonkers from some other reason. So you have to be careful not to sign on to their flawed troubleshooting steps. You wouldn't be there if the problem was solvable by the people who were already there. So you need to add a fresh perspective. The only way you can do that is by slowing the conversation down, making sure nothing was missed, no steps were skipped. Stick to your guns on your problem solving skills. They will see you through this. Don't accuse anybody of goofing up or being dumb or stupid or missing something. And avoid getting too technical with your jargon until you're sure they understand everything involved. The last thing you need is for them to be more confident and less competent. So raise their competence without, kicking them in the confidence. So some other customers, it's more a friendly approach that's needed. They need to be listened to. They need to know that you care, that they're unable to work at this moment, that they're in a pickle and they want some help. Sometimes they literally just need to vent. Sometimes you get there and the problem has been plaguing them for 3 days, and the moment you show up, it stops. The problem just goes away, and they're like, oh, great. Just because you're here, the problem is gone. That happens all the time. And when it does, I usually take a second and just sort of lay some groundwork for the future. And I say, hey, if the problem returns, give me a leg up on this. Document the last couple things you opened, document what you were doing. Just scribble down real quick. I was in Microsoft Word and I opened up another Chrome tab, and then suddenly hell broke loose. Involve them in the process and say, hey, look, it shows that A, you believe the problem exists, and B, you trust them to be involved in the solution. And then C, they're going to reciprocate that by hopefully trusting you back. And verbal abuse happens. I work at a school. I work at John A. and I work at SIU. And, John A., Rob Craig's really casual. He's a great boss. We go back and forth making fun of each other. We can be kind of borderline rude to each other, sort of, aha, Rob, you messed this up, blah, blah, blah. But no one's ever abusive. And if they were, I wouldn't stand for it. I don't think Rob would. I don't think anybody in the department would. I expect everyone at John and everyone at John A has been super polite throughout all this crisis and everything. And at SIU, generally same way. SIU is a bigger organization, though. It is less family-like. Like John A is everybody's very friendly with each other and helpful. It's a smaller school, and I have had people get out of line at SIU. And, I've had to tell people you made my technician cry. I'm never sending you that technician again. And any problem you ever have, you're going to get me. And I'm going to take my time. And this is because you have proven that you can't treat people respectfully, and we just won't tolerate it. And it's weird. It's a little retaliatory for me to say that to a customer, but the problem never happened again. And I'm just not, under no circumstances do I think that any IT staff exists to get yelled at by customers. Yeah, the customer's always right. You exist to help them, but they don't get to go there with you. They don't get to yell at you. They don't get this verbal abuse. They don't get this, they're going to stress you out just being normal. They don't get to make it worse. So I encourage you not to tolerate that. And if you're at a workplace that does tolerate that and doesn't back you up, then, get your resume together and start applying. Look for somewhere that protects you as well, just protect decency across the whole place. Work at a friendly place like John A or SIU. Like I said, SIU has very few outliers. By and large, it's very, very similar to John A. It's a good place. So never say that's not my problem or that's not our problem. You can say this is a network problem and I need to talk to a network engineer. You can say I can't fix this, but I know someone who can. Never say you called the wrong person. Good luck. Bye. Connect them to the right person. IT makes sense to you guys. Based on your quiz grades and your test scores, you understand that if someone is being hacked, that we should call the security team. If someone's internet is off or slow, we should call networking. If they need help installing a printer or they can't get a screen to work, that's probably a desktop support thing. We need a person to come troubleshoot. You guys understand that. And to some extent, your generation understands that better on average, but not always. But you guys do. So what you have to remember is when you are dealing with even people who are absolute geniuses, they're an Albert Einstein at math, or they're an amazing painter or sculptor, or they're an amazing shift manager, they're an incredible sergeant, they're whatever their role is in your organization, they're flipping great at it. But they might be terrible at IT at the same time. But you're not. You're the person they're going to lean on. So you make the problem manageable. You make a little progress. You should lower the stress of every room you walk into. When you walk into a room, they should go, oh, thank goodness it's Josh. Or thank goodness it's Simran here. She's going to help. She'll know what to do. Or she will know who to call. She will help me. You should be the person that improves communication, not makes it worse. As far as when the job is finished, try to get the customer to see that it's finished. You ideally you want the customer to go, "Wow, thank you. That's everything I needed. Get out of my office. Go away so I can go back to work." Like you don't want them to have any other unresolved issues. This is the best possible scenarios when the customer basically kicks you out because there's nothing else wrong and they want to get going. So you need to make sure the problem is completely gone. You need to, if the computer was acting weird, reboot it. Make sure that everything is still fixed after a reboot. Sit back, let them sit down at the computer and do what they were doing and see if they can reproduce the problem. Make sure their data is all where they expect it to be. Make sure that they're looking at their computer going, yeah, everything's great and I'm going to get back to work now. Thank you. Then you get out. And hopefully you document all this in a ticket in case something happens again. You or the next technician to look at this issue can see the whole history or at least a vague little rundown. Tried this, this worked, this didn't work, replace this. Of course, no matter what your job is, no matter what your role is, you got to focus on business. You're there to work. You have kind of agreed by accepting the salary, by accepting the money, the benefits, you have agreed to accept the workplace's priorities. You don't have to let them treat you badly, and you definitely don't let them break the law. But if they want to install the wrong thing over here, or they want to wait to do a thing that you think they should hurry up, you say your piece, and then you let it go. You don't get personal. If you don't like working with somebody, well, you might work with them for 20 years. Ugh, that's a horrible reality. You can always try to look for a different job or try to transfer it into another section. But if you can learn to live with it to where they don't bother you anymore, then you win no matter what happens. Negativity is not usually good. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you have to say, hey, we are wasting a lot of money on this and we shouldn't. Or, hey, the customers are really mad about this. Or if we don't do this, we're going to run out of equipment by next month and then we're going to be in trouble. Sometimes you have to say negative things to warn people. And once you've said it, and you kind of got to move on and work with whatever you're given. If you're in a leadership role, then it's up to you to change this stuff, and you should be searching for those negative opinions because that's your bread and butter. Again, complaints are what you need. So practice good organization skills. Be at least as organized as the people around you. Participate in group calendars. Show up on time, etc. These are basic things, but they had to be said to me when I was a young kid. I had to have it explained to me that I needed to exist as part of an organization and not as an individual when I was in the workplace. You also got to know your limits. If you can't handle a certain situation, you need to say so, maybe avoid it if you can, and be willing to admit when you can't do something. I can't solve this, so I need to call for help. I need a more experienced technician, or I need like they do with me, I need a Mac specialist. So they bug me because they don't want to learn about Macs. Fine. I'm going to tap them later when there's like a group policy problem that they understand better than I do. I'm going to say, hey, remember when I fixed that Mac thing for you? Oh, well, you owe me. So help me with this group policy thing. So admit when you can't do something and rely on others, make friends. You want your colleagues to owe you a lot. You want to be the most helpful person around so that when you're having a bad day and you're in deep, deep trouble, they all go, oh, how can I possibly help? I owe you so much. So escalation is what we were just talking about, kind of. You're the frontline tech, you're answering the phone, or you take the first look at it and you're like, oh, I can't solve it. This is serious. We got to replace hardware, or the whole network in this area is down, or this is a massive security issue. Everyone in the department's doing dumb stuff that's putting us at risk. You've got to escalate it. Talk to a boss, talk to the next person up the chain, and go, I'm seeing this and I don't think I can fix it from my level. So I got to escalate. Follow through, though. Stay part of the problem and figure it out. Okay. So, in summary, customers think they just want technical know-how, and that's what they get a lot of the time is technical know-how and no people skills, no start to finish kind of idea of support. But they need more than that. First contact, be professional and friendly, of course. It's obvious. This is a bullet list from the book. That's why it's so kind of painfully obvious, but still good to go through. Ask the right questions when you're interviewing about a problem. Yep. Set and meet expectations. Hey, I'm going to fix this. I think I can fix it by 2 o'clock. If you're sure you can fix something, by all means, throw out a swagger it. Say yeah, I need half an hour and I'll have this fixed. Cool, cool, cool. Deal confidently and gracefully with customers who are difficult. Yeah, be the adult in the room. Take the high road. Be the most professional, most composed, most patient, polite, intelligent, competent motherfucker in the room. Be that person. Impress everyone around you and go, damn, I'm so glad they were here. Be that person. And then if you can't solve it, find someone who can. Start nice, start polite, and start G rated. I have a real problem with that because I love bad words, as you guys may have detected. And I match the customer though. I start G rated like I'm in a Disney movie with, 12 little kids that I don't want to corrupt. And I watch my mouth. And then if I'm in a room alone with the dean, and she says, what the fuck is this shit? Then I feel a little more licensed to say those words myself. I match. I read the room and I match the audience. I match the customer's level of casual banter, casual, conversation. I always stay one step more professional than them, both in appearance and in conversation, but that's generally the rule of thumb. So lab time tomorrow and Wednesday, whatever your usual time is, 5 or 6 p.m., we're going to disconnect all the cables from a motherboard and reconnect them, and hopefully the computer will still work. Hooah! That's the Mobo Bobo. Those should be reversed. Next week, not tomorrow, not Wednesday. A week from tomorrow and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Don't worry about the 6 p.m. You can show up a little late if you need to from work or whatever. We're going to meet online only. We're going to meet in Discord, and you're going to have a little one-on-one. You're each going to have a little 5 or 10-minute one-on-one where you pretend to be the technician and one of my evil friends pretends to be your customer. They're a lot of fun. My friends are really good at this. They're kind of a little bit rotten, but this is to test your patience, your sense of logic, your ability to reason under fire and solve these sort of issues. So this is a big chunk of participation points for this. I know we don't normally make everybody show up on Discord, but I'm not going to be able to do this more than once because I will only have the guest speakers this one time. So if you miss it next week, you've missed it, and it's probably half or 3/4 of a letter grade. It'll hurt you if you miss it, so don't miss next week. After that, I'm going to give you guys a good 2 weeks to do the build project. This is not all of them, but these are some of the businesses that you'll get assigned one of these, only one. Each one of you will get a different one, and you will design a complete computer setup for this business. I'll give you a budget, I'll give you a floor plan, and you will explain to me how many computers you're going to buy and where they're going to go, what they're going to be used for, and what other accessories. And I'll give you plenty of time for this. We have plenty of time left in the semester. We are in a very good pace right now. We have most of the physical labs done. So we're very good. So once in several weeks from now, when you've completed your build project, you'll turn it into me and I will eval it during class time with spectators. I will judge you. It'll be lovely. Josh, Simran, you still with me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys for coming. That'll conclude the recording for this one. The quiz should be unlocked about customer service in general. And thank you both for being here.
Thank you. I just wanted to